love making these videos in the beginning of the year, but this year I decided I wasn't going to do one, that I've made enough of them and I didn't need to make another one. And then I started seeing everybody else's what I'm not buying for 2022 videos, and I felt very compelled to make one of my own before the end of January. And what I actually really love about these what I'm not buying videos is that everybody has different reasons for not buying things, and everyone has different reasons for trying to be more of a minimalist, right? I think there's a lot to be said for the money that you can save when trying to live a more minimalist lifestyle if you're coming from sort of this hyper-consumer background or living what many consider to be the American dream these days, just buying all the stuff you don't need all the time. I think in that case, for many people, minimalism is the key to saving money. I also think that having a house with a lot less clutter is great for our mental health. And I think that's why a lot of people are trying to buy less things. But for me personally, the reason that I try to buy less things is for the planet. Personally, I label my lifestyle as something I call eco-minimalism, which is basically buying as little as you can to have the smallest environmental impact through your consumer habits as you can. Every single thing we buy has an environmental footprint, from where something was grown, to the fact that it had to use greenhouse gases to be shipped, to the energy it takes to manufacture that thing and then ship it all over again. And then at the end of its life cycle, you have to do something with it, and oftentimes it gets thrown away. And so inevitably, by buying less, we are lessening our environmental footprints, and that's kind of what I'm all about. So if you're into that sort of thing and you're not already subscribed, make sure you do so. And let's get into 22 things I'm not buying in 2022. Also, a huge thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. We'll talk more about them at the end, but if you're interested in building an online store, website, or even if you just need a domain, there's a link at the top of my description to give you a little discount. The first thing I wrote down that I'm not buying is actually very particular to me personally. It is seeds for my garden. Listen, one of my favorite reasons that I like watching these what I'm not buying videos is everybody walks through their process of how they got to the decision to stop buying something. And I think the reason these videos are so popular is it can help other people understand and start to think about what's important to them and what's not. I think these videos show very clearly how to be conscious of what you're purchasing and what you're talking yourself out of buying because you don't need it. For me, seeds for my garden have been an impulse buy, which is number 2, by the way, impulse buys. In 2022 and in 2021, seeds were very much an impulse buy for me, and something that I was buying to make myself, this is gonna sound really cringy, but to feel something. You may have seen this on TikTok. I definitely follow a lot of people who talk about this, but how millennials kind of have these things that they buy to make them feel something during the pandemic. It's like a whole niche. That's the side of TikTok I'm on, by the way. But I feel like throughout 2020 and 2021, I really was using my garden as a means of joy because there just simply wasn't a lot in my life when we lost the ability to be around people and to travel. And so every time I would go to buy one type of seed from these few seed companies that I like to support, I would end up looking at all the seeds and then becoming interested in everything. And before I know it, I have more seeds than I know what to do with. And I think these what I'm not buying videos are really good for helping you identify what that is in your life that you bought too much of, that you already have enough and you don't need to repurchase, things that you got into the habit of buying that you were maybe not consciously aware that it was a problem. I'd love to hear in the comments if my explanations of why I'm not buying seeds anymore helped you identify something like that for you and what that might be. Let me know in the comments. My personal reasoning, like I said, for not buying a lot of things are environmental purposes. This one is not. It's just a money thing, and it's subscription services. It seems like every time I turn around, I need a new subscription service to watch the thing that my neighbor recommended I watch, and I'm not gonna buy all of these subscription services. I'm simply just not. I'm not someone who watches TV enough to actually get enough use out of justifying that, but also someone you know's got an account. Just borrow it from someone. I think this has slowly been coming to fruition for me over the last couple years, but it is buying clothes that don't fit. I'm obviously a plus size person, and I think for a long time I didn't want to buy clothes that fit me because that meant that I was giving up on losing weight and all that sort of stuff. And I think over the last couple years I've just realized this is just my body and it deserves to be clothed in a way that's comfortable and that makes me feel confident. So I'm just done buying clothes that I do really love and I think are cute and I think I would wear, but inevitably I'm not gonna wear because they don't fit right. Also, athletic gear, I bought a lot in December when sales were going on at Girlfriend Collective, the absolute best like athletic wear that there is. I realized I was wearing the same thing to the gym every time I was going, and I didn't even have time to wash it, so I bought quite a few things that I needed in December. And so for this year, unless something crazy happens and I lose a bunch of my workout gear or it breaks, which won't happen because I buy high quality stuff, I'm not gonna buy athletic gear in 2021. And I think it's also good to identify those things in your life. What things do you buy because you're like, oh, it's a necessity, but it's really not because you already have plenty of it? I think it's good to identify those sort of things in your life. Trendy kitchen appliances, I've cooked so much more, again, over the last couple years, and realistically, I don't need the next thing that's going to come out that's like the thing that everyone needs. I will say, if you don't have a toaster oven, an air fryer is, I love that thing. I don't think it's trendy. I think it's a wonderful cooking device and I'm glad that someone gifted me one. But I think paying attention to just what the next cool thing is that everyone's saying you need to get, evaluating if that's something that you would actually use and something that you actually need is something to be aware of. Along with that, I had a couple other like kitchen things that like are different but also the same. So one is kitchenware, cookware that is rarely used. For instance, I recently threw my sister a graduation party and realized I own 0 serving platters. That's because that's an item that I would literally only use like once a year, if that, because I don't host any gatherings at my house as of right now. And on the rare occasion that I do, I can just make what I have suffice, or 2, I can literally use the thrift store as a rental service. That's what we did for my sister's graduation party. We realized we needed serving platters. I didn't have any. Went to the thrift store, used them for that day, and I redonated it right after. During that process, I realized why I don't have things like that, why I don't want to store them, why I don't want to buy them new, especially why I don't want to buy them high quality and all those sort of things, because I'm rarely going to use it. My family was astonished by the fact that I could find those things in the thrift store, and when they realized that I was going to take them back to the thrift store, they were like, wait, maybe I could use it. You know, it's just this incessant need to hold on to things that just aren't getting used and are taking up space not only in your home, but honestly in your mind. Because for me, trying to find somewhere that makes sense to store that is taking away storage from things that I already have in those places and just causing clutter that I'm constantly having to reevaluate, move around, keep clean, keep organized. It's just not worth it for me. And I think that that is something also to take into consideration when you consider not buying things in 2022. As well as low quality kitchen stuff. If you didn't know, my sister has been renting a room in our house for the last 2.5 years, and she just moved out. So I just realized how minimalistic my kitchen really was before her. We don't have a can opener. We don't have a good knife set. We have a knife set, but the knives that we used to cook while she was here were all hers. We do not own measuring cups or spoons or a muffin tin. But I think I'm really grateful for all of those things, because now that I am 29 years old, I'm in a place where I can invest in things that are quality, whereas if I would have bought all of those things maybe when I first moved out of my parents' house when I was 18, I would have bought really low quality stuff that would have inevitably had to have been replaced, which would cost me more money in the long run, obviously, and be really wasteful. And so I think buying low quality kitchen anything from here on out is gonna be a no for me. If I need to buy it, if I've gone through all the steps and decided this is something I need to spend the money to get it quality so that I don't have to replace it 5-10 years down the road. As well as mugs. I don't need to spend any time on this. Mugs are cute. I love them. I'm obsessed with them. I always look at them at the thrift store, but I don't need to buy anymore. Trendy health and food supplements seem to be something that are very, very high in demand right now. There's always a new vitamin coming out, always a new supplement that's like the superfood of the year. I'm just trying not to buy into any of those things. I take my Cara vitamins, the ones that I know and I swear by. I don't need to buy into the newest one that my favorite vlogger is using. I also don't need to go buy the next superfood that everyone is saying is wonderful and great for you. Having a healthy, balanced diet and taking supplements that you know you need, that's kind of all you need. I need to know if you feel this way, that once mass-produced art is in your home, it feels very underwhelming. It's something that you get tired of quickly. It doesn't hold a lot of value. It's just not something that like really speaks to or makes you super happy. But sometimes when you walk into TJ Maxx with your sister, those things really make you think that you want them. Now, I haven't bought mass-produced art in a very long time, I guess since college probably, because I've had the realization that once it's in my space, it's just not going to serve the purpose that I thought it would at the store. And so I'm not buying mass-produced art in 2022, but I think applying that principle to anything is really, really worth keeping in the back of your mind. This thing may seem beautiful and lovely and like it's going to bring me joy in the store, but think to a similar thing that's in your home that maybe you've decluttered, or maybe it's just sitting around that you never notice, that doesn't really bring you joy or bring life to the space that you think it will. Holiday decor has been something that I've talked about many a times that I'm not going to be buying. And honestly, I haven't until this past Christmas when Madison and I did Vlogmas. If you missed that, I'll try to remember to link it up here. We vlogged, I think, every day up until Christmas. We just didn't post every day. I basically wanted to show that you could do the things that everybody in Vlogmas does, like get new decor and make something cute and get gifts and wrap gifts and make treats and all these sort of things. I wanted to show that you could do all of that still in a sustainable way. So for the first time, I bought a Christmas tree. I bought Christmas decor. I did all the Christmassy things. I think I should let them persist on their own for another year before I reevaluate if I want to add anything to it. And so for 2022, I'm not buying any Christmas decor. December is going to roll around with Vlogmas and I'm going to think I need to, but my goal is not to. Blankets. I am always being gifted blankets, and hence I am not going to buy any more blankets for myself. That's pretty much it. Anything for the pantry is not going to be bought in 2022 unless it is replacing something that is already in there. I'm so excited to have my fridge and pantry back since my sister moved out, but she did leave a lot of stuff in the pantry that we need to work through before we fill the pantry back up. And so in order to keep my pantry nice and organized, since I finally have control of it back, I'm not buying anything for the pantry unless it's replacing something that's already there. Also, pens and pencils. I actually bought refills for my pencils last year, and the pens that I've been using I got when I was part of this convention. I've been using them since, that would have had to have been 2019, 2018. I realized that the pencil I'm using and the pens that I use I really, really like. And so for this year, I am going to make an effort to not buy any pens or pencils at all. I don't have to buy a planner because the planner that I use is refillable, so I just add pages to it as I need them. I didn't buy a new planner when 2022 got here. I've been using the same one for the past 3 years. I'm not going to be buying any tech this year. My phone is relatively new. If nothing happens to my laptop, God willing. I love this laptop. It's lasted me for the last like 7 years and I'm super grateful for it. My iPad, my cameras, everything works great. So tech is somewhere where I can kind of slip into being like, oh, it's okay. Get yourself something new, Shelby, make your work life easier. And sometimes that's okay to do, but I think I've done that enough over the last couple years that for 2022, let's just use what we have and maybe I'll reevaluate at the beginning of next year. Smelly things like perfume, candles, plugins. Tara knows. Tell him, Tara. Tara's my editor, if you guys don't know. I went to Tara's house back in October and she told me that she unplugged, or did you turn off a candle? I can't remember, because I was coming over and she was like, I know Shelby has this thing about smelly things, or I don't want to offend her. I don't like smelly things. I know a lot of people value these things. I think it's important to look at what a lot of people around you value and what you value or what you like, and not be so influenced by what everybody else is doing, and do what makes you feel good. And so that's one thing for me. My sister used to love burning candles upstairs, and I would purposefully stay downstairs because I can't stand just smelling something. And I think it's important to recognize that just because someone else likes it doesn't mean you have to, and you don't have to buy it and participate in that. So that's one of the lessons I've learned, and I'm not gonna buy them. This is a funny one, but soap. Basically, every time I go anywhere where there is a person who makes soap, I buy it. I basically don't need to buy any soap for probably 2022 and beyond. So just recognizing those patterns that you have and like stopping them at some point. And I think the new year is a good point to do that, right? To realize things that you have enough of and stop the buying of it. That's a principle that you can apply to your life this year as well. Board games. I actually have a few board games, and recently Madison and I went on this excursion to try to find board games for a game night that we did with our friend. I think having games that everyone can play at like all different levels of like age and maturity and just interest in general is a good thing to have when you have friends over. I've really learned the value of like having games around this year. My friend Bailey and Greg, they absolutely love playing games. They have like a whole closet. So we accumulated a couple games, but what I've realized is I don't need any more because I actually bought every Jackbox game that exists. If you don't know what Jackbox is, then you probably don't watch the vlog channel, and maybe you should go subscribe over there. I'll link one right here where we played some Jackbox games. And one of the games is called Drawful, which is amazing that we were able to play it with even all of Madison's nephews, who range from age, I think, 6 to 13. So I just realized that since I have these digital games and everyone can play them and there's something for everyone to enjoy, I don't need to continue seeking out board games, because honestly, everyone just loves these games. Craft supplies for me over the last couple years have gotten a little bit out of control. I try to keep all of my craft supplies in this one box that I have in my garage, and once it gets full, that's kind of how I know I should stop. I think it's good to have some sort of limit on yourself, right? Because craft supplies is something that you could continuously accumulate, and you use this little thing and you don't use that little thing, and what if you use this for that and you have this idea? It can go on forever. But limiting yourself to something like a box, and then realizing once that box is full, you need to evaluate it, right? Are you going to use this stuff up? Do you need to donate it maybe to a secondhand craft store? Whatever it is, I think setting limits like that can be really helpful. And specifically with craft supplies for 2022, my limit has been set by my box. I need to use up what I have before I buy anything new. And 22 is fancy travel stuff. I did a lot of travel in 2021. I was really happy with a lot of it. Honestly, what I learned is that sometimes fancy things inhibit your experience of traveling. If you spend a lot of money to be staying at a place, you want to be in that place. I stayed at one hotel in Brooklyn when I was in New York, and while that place was absolutely amazing, I found myself so in love with the view and the experience of staying there that I felt kind of bad leaving because of also the amount of money I paid to be there. I think I need a little bit more experience to make a finalized decision on this, but I think what I learned is overall spending more on travel and treating yourself, while sometimes I personally need to break that boundary and say, Shelby, it's okay to treat yourself. I think I also learned that it's not necessary for me to travel to stay somewhere super nice or to spend a lot of money on the nicer rental car or the quicker flight, or I won't say the fancy restaurant because my favorite experience in New York was the fancy restaurant. I do have some travels coming up, and other than things that I've already booked, my idea is not to get super fancy with any of it because it doesn't add to the actual travel experience. I think that's a lesson I learned last year. Those are the 22 things I am not buying in 2022. Please let me know in the comments. I really appreciate it when you guys leave comments. If any of the things and the reasons that I'm not buying things really helped you, let me know which one helped you and with what. I'd love to hear it in the comments. And before I let you go, I want to give another huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Like I said, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform, so you can look to them to build an online store, website, or even just if you need to purchase a domain. Squarespace makes setting up a website super easy because you don't need to learn coding. They already have some beautiful templates over there that you can customize to be exactly what you're looking for. Squarespace makes it easy to connect your social media and to also take advantage of their blogging tools. You can do email campaigns through Squarespace because it is an all-in-one platform, like I mentioned. With their 24-hour customer service and traffic insight tools, it makes it the easiest way to build a website on the internet today. So when you're ready to launch, head over to squarespace.com/Shelbizleee for 10% off of your first purchase.